the sign from the back. No, the AV guys. Our online people need to tell us we're ready to go.
It must be. There's no weather. No runner. Okay, well, that answers one question I had. Was it's probably
Okay. Friends, can we gather? The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel this day for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
What a great video. Thank you to Madeline and Brian for putting that together for us. And welcome to the annual meeting. In case you don't know me, I'm Tracy O'Malley, the outgoing senior warden. Thank you. So as you can see, our little St. Peter's in the Woods is coming back from COVID, and most of our ministries have been restored. We're up and running again. Some of them need to be a little stronger and need some energy. So like Bishop David said this morning, how is God calling you maybe to join one of the ministry areas and offer your help? We've been very blessed to come through this recovery from COVID, but we've had some difficulties. For those of you who maybe missed the email on Friday, the vestry has had to face some really challenging economic facts, and with a very sad outcome. During the worst of the COVID years, our expenses were actually reduced because we were less able to participate within our church community and the larger community, and we ended up with a surplus of funds. Now that we've used up the surplus and in our small little church, we find that we are unable financially to continue to have 2 full-time rectors. So unfortunately and sadly, we have to let our as of June of this year, we will have to let Reverend G go. And it's a sad moment, and we really all love Reverend G, and we're sad to see him go, but it's the reality of our current economic situation. And with that said, I would like to introduce Chuck Link, who will explain the details behind this decision, as well as where we stand, and also about our Building Love fundings and where we stand with that. Chuck. And Chuck is going to join us online.
He's there somewhere.
So, yeah. Yes. If you can expand this. Chuck, you on? Can you hear us? Chuck? Can you hear us?
Talking to the mic.
Chuck?
Can you hear us, Chuck?
Can you see the screen and can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Unfortunately, I can't hear you. And I'm afraid if I turn the YouTube video on, we'll have some feedback. So,
No, don't do
but I'll give it a try.
that. Should we tell him not to?
Can you hear us, Chuck? I can hear you now on YouTube. Can you hear me? Can you see the screen? All right. I can hear you now. There's a turn the YouTube video on. We'll have some feedback. So. There's a I'll give it a try. There's about a 5-second delay on the YouTube video.
We can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now. Apologize. Ready to go. I think we're ready to go. There we go. There's our August Finance Committee who works hard to track our finances. We meet monthly prior to vestry meetings, reviews of financial metrics. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
We don't see the
share
file.
screen.
We don't see the slide.
I've shared the screen. It should be on Zoom.
We don't see it.
I'll stop share and try again.
Yeah, we don't see your slide.
I'm working on it.
Harry did it. Yeah. Is there a 14-year-old in the room?
Are you watching the YouTube video or are you watching me?
We're
You see
watching
me?
you.
We're watching you.
So just share it on the Zoom.
Yeah, I could. And here's my chart.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'm gonna have to log out and log back in, I guess. Give me a minute.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think you thought that was so funny.
No, he's coming back.
Get Terry, I gotta laugh.
I know. Maybe you want to move farther away from the mic, maybe.
Is the share screen on? I think we got to lose the picture.
Would you like to say another prayer, then we get this up and going?
Are we on? Are we on YouTube? How are we gonna fix that?
The people at home
We get on
watching,
Zoom.
and they are just trying to see everything share the screen.
Each time?
That's as good as I can do. Can you see that screen?
No. Are
Do you
we
share
on?
it through the Zoom?
The thought is we're on
Yes.
YouTube and you're on Zoom.
I'm sharing through the Zoom.
Well, I cannot see it.
What we see is ourselves.
Oh, wait.
I'm sorry.
He wants to show the slides.
Right, I don't have control over all the slides he has, so he needs to.
She doesn't have the slides. No, but we're apparently on Zoom.
Brian, can I email you the slides?
He's asking if you can email him the slides.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Brian, let me make sure I've got your email address. Pretty sure I do.
You can send it to me and I will share.
All right. Okay, I'm signing off and I'll email you the slides and then we'll sign back on again.
You can copy, Brian.
Okay.
Just load it on your computer, and then just go to it on your computer.
All right.
Okay. More coffee? Be ready.
So it's fresh coffee. Thank you, everybody.
Nothing. No, he's emailing it to me. I'm just kidding, yeah. Okay, I got it. So what I'll do, I will,
When I say chart, you enter.
say that again?
When you advance the chart, okay? There you go.
So please tell me when to, press forward, okay?
He'll say chart.
When you chart, okay?
Chuck, can go ahead.
Reverend G, here's a chair.
Okay, thank you. Chuck, can you hear us?
I can hear you and the screen.
Okay.
Okay. Let's continue. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Advance the chart. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
It is a delay.
And he said all this already.
All right, there's our finance committee. As you can see, it's pretty well attended by former senior wardens. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? The problem is that there's a significant delay between the time I can hear you. It's pretty well attended. We'll continue. We meet monthly to review the finances, develop reports, make appropriate recommendations to the vestry, and we prepare the annual report.
Oh, yeah, I can share right now.
Good, thank you. Sure.
Chuck, I can see your screen right now. Wait a second.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see it this minute.
No, I mean, I say I can see your screen right now.
I know, but I can't see it, so I can't tell what slide you're on.
Oh, okay.
Overview of accounts. Overview.
Okay, so we are on the overview of accounts.
Okay.
Am I going too
This-
fast? Chuck, I can see your screen right now.
Yeah, but I can't see it, Reverend G.
Oh, wait a second. Wait a second.
Yeah, that's not helpful to me, Reverend G, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop that sharing, I'm gonna try sharing a different way.
Okay.
He should get off.
Yeah, that's helpful to me, Reverend G, I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop that sharing.
Yeah, yeah. Chuck, can you go off YouTube? You can go off YouTube completely.
Yeah.
Then he can do by phone to you,
Yeah.
I'm not on YouTube on the same computer though.
but
Oh, okay.
still needs to shut it down.
Yeah, you can show it. Yeah.
Brian said shut it down, YouTube.
Okay, shut down.
Now you can tell him where we are
Okay.
with
Okay.
the slides.
You see the slide?
No.
Finance committee report.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You open it on your computer and I will tell you where I am. All right? That's gonna be better.
You're on the overview.
I'm on the report.
I can't, I'm sorry.
If you have it on your computer, you can go ahead and I will show it here.
Okay, so you're on financial committee reports?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You've all seen this chart before. It tells you what we do on the finance committee, and the finance committee is pretty well staffed. However, I understand they're looking for a new chair, so anybody that's interested ought to talk to them. Next chart. This is what we'll do over the next few minutes. I apologize that this is taking so long. Next chart. Our working accounts, at the end of the year, we had $57,835.71. That includes our checking account and our electronic giving account. Next chart. Our building love account is also maintained at Truist, but it's a separate account from our working accounts. We'll talk about it later. Next chart. It's also where our clergy discretionary accounts are held. Next chart. Our other accounts, our investment and savings accounts, are held at Wells Fargo. Total investment value at the end of 2022, $683,446.11. Next chart. If anybody made any money in the stock market this year, they need to tell me who they are and they'll become my financial advisor. Last year was a great year, 802,000, more than that, $82,700. This year we lost $68,693 of that. That's even after taking fairly extraordinary measures to reduce risk in January. Next chart. This is also where we hold our savings account. Now, that's a pretty healthy savings. That's savings built up by surpluses over the last years. The last few years, the COVID years, that's begun to decrease. Our ability to add to that account has begun to decrease. In fact, this year we had nothing at all, other than a surplus from the previous year. But so far over this year, we have not made a deposit in the savings. Next chart. Finally, our existing building loan, which we financed in May 2019 with the Diocesan Missionary Society, now stands at $635,950 $950.54 as of our December 2022 payment. Any questions on existing finances? Now I'll continue. Next chart. Let's talk about our Building Love campaign. Next chart.
The same chart?
Yeah, just don't move anything until I tell you next chart.
I'm on congratulations, right?
Good, that's where we are.
Okay.
That dotted blue line shows what we expected to receive in pledges after Janelle and Heidi made a detailed transcription of everyone's pledge card as to when we might expect to receive the money. As you may remember, we had some large donors who contributed their money a little early on, so that accounts for the bulge in the chart. But the important part is we're staying ahead of expectations and following that curve. And so you're all to be congratulated for continuing your pledge fulfillment during these tough times. Next chart. Now, the building committee and our treasurer Pam have done a great job of transcribing the expected rate of expenses associated with the building onto this. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't tell you how much I admire the building committee for what they've gone through. They've just done wonders. You owe them all a big thank you. Next chart. This red line represents our actual expenses to date. You can see it's flattened out a little bit there recently because of the continued delay in beginning construction, but those costs will pick up. Next chart. And as you can see, we've already paid some $500,000 or some 20% of the total project cost. Next chart. I keep pressing enter and expecting the chart to change. I apologize. The green line represents the actual accumulation of funds in the bank on any given month. And as you can see, it pretty much follows the expense line, except for that little uptick. That uptick is the first deposits from the Building Love matching campaign. Again, more congratulations. Next chart.
I'm wondering if we're on the same chart.
This chart reads, as you know,
Yeah.
GAP using our investments most recently the following matching campaigns.
Yes.
Matching campaign. So now we've had to actually deal with that. So let's look at how that develops. Next chart. Let's say in this time frame we liquidated all our investments using the in December numbers plus the $90,000 that were promised from Fairfax County. As you can see, we increased the funds available by quite a bit. Does everybody understand that so far? You're so good. Next chart. When we add to that projection, the anticipated funds from the matching campaign, just from the donors to the matching campaign, we improve that outlook by this much. Next chart. And then our blessed anonymous donor, who's added to this amount by the amount of the matching campaign pledges, now we're looking pretty good. Next chart. Think about this, folks. We have in hand the ability to self-fund 97% of the total project cost. The total campaign deficit, if we count the money we're going to have at the end of December 24, the deficit is $61,076. Of course, next chart. Of course, the contractor's not going to wait till then to be paid. So at the end of construction, we're looking at a deficit of about $200,000. Next chart. But as you see where the orange line and the light green line pass, that's where we can expect to run out of money available to pay bills. So that's why we need more money. Next chart. And we are in dialogue with the Diocese Standing Committee seeking permission to borrow about $300,000. About 250 of that is going to be needed there at that crunch point where those two lines cross. The rest of it, frankly, is a hedge against unpredictable developments. As a wise realtor named Steve Wharton once told me, it's always easier to manage an overage than it is a shortage. So, pretty sure we can get this. We have a meeting with the Standing Committee next Thursday, I believe, and so far they've been very receptive to our plea. Next chart. Good story, man. Good news story. You should give yourselves a hand. That's good news. Next chart. Now let's look at the 2023.
I want to ask a question, right?
Sure.
Sure.
Yep, Joe.
I'm happy to take a question now.
Yeah, so I appreciate you kind of showing the operational costs like for 2022 and then the capital cost. I'm a little confused though. So the bishop mentioned this morning kind of there's a demography skew in our church, right, which is going down, which is going to change our income stream, right? And so I'm trying to kind of assimilate that with the money that you just showed, right? So you've got a capital investment, no logistical tail on the operations and maintenance, but we know that that number is going down. So I'm confused as to how this is actually a good news story, because we're doing a major capital investment at the same time that our income, which will be used to maintain that, is going down at the same time that we're about to ask for another $300,000 loan for the diocese. So I'm trying to figure out how all of those sorts of different data come together to show that this isn't actually like a dangerous sort of decision to be made. Over.
Yeah, can I ask who's speaking?
Yeah, I mean, this is Sam. I don't know. You've probably seen me around. My kids are the ones that do the acolyte during the day, so that's what I'm known as, the acolyte dad.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't quite understand that. You got a little garbled. But let's back up one chart, please. Okay, as I said at the outset, the Building Love campaign is a completely separate entity from our mission and our annual campaign operating funds. As you'll see when we get to that part of the budget, I have added the cost of the increased payments to the property expense line in the budget. And so you'll see our budget is at a minor deficit, but it's not a deficit that I think we can get past. Does that begin to answer your question, sir?
So I'd say just keep going, and then if I have questions, I'll probably find you after, because I do this sort of stuff for a living for like 20-year lab planning, and so I have lots and lots of questions. But keep going, and then I don't want to bore everybody else with number stuff.
We have a place for you on the list.
Next chart. And I'll describe a few things from this proposed budget for 23. Next chart. I saw Bob Bent was in the audience when I could still see you folks, so I'm going to blow this up for the older folks. Next. Next chart. There we go. Can you see that, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Next chart. Out of a total of 68 pledges, This is the lowest number of pledges we've had in some time, although some generous folks came up with a pretty good number. Next chart. We have another generous grant from the Massey Foundation, plus a few other designated gifts that will all go toward outreach. Next chart. Next chart. Any questions on income before I move on? Next chart. We had hoped to, next chart, we had hoped to increase this number this year, but the budget just doesn't really permit us, but that's still a pretty healthy helping hand for the diocese from St. Peter's in the Woods. Next chart. As I've said here for the first time in memory, we've had to trim fixed personnel costs. We've survived for some time on surplus revenues from previous years, but they have been shrinking. Next chart. And I can't read these words. I'll get emotional, so I'll let you read them. Next chart. Next chart. Next chart. No surprise, all the expenses were below budget. Next chart. But in order to meet next year, we've had to make some trimming. So, next chart. With the exception of 3 of these areas, we've trimmed down to, next chart, down to 20% of what they spent in the previous year. It's still all higher than what they spent last year. Now, this is an area where we're continuing to try to fully fund as much as we can. Basically, we're trying to maintain the essential mission identity of our blessed church.
Can we please check if we're on the same chart?
You are.
You have 37,000 circled?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the same chart you are.
All right.
Next chart. Now, looking back at the larger chart, next chart. Is, on the budget, actual expenses and actual income, we finished with a little bit of a surplus. Now, you may remember in previous years, we've applied that budget surplus to the next year's budget. Next chart. Next chart. But as I think you know, I'm a fighter pilot, but the real financial people tell me that that's not a best practice, so we're discontinuing that practice in terms of the budget itself. So when we look at our budget, next chart, we add everything up, subtract everything, and we come out with a deficit of about $15,938. Now, that's the kind of deficit that we may be able to work through over the course of the year, in my experience. If not, at some point, the vestry may have to move some of that money that we've managed to squirrel away in savings back to working funds. But when the time comes, they'll be confronted with that decision. Now, I think it's important to recognize our church isn't broken. This is just the reality of what's happened to us coming through the pandemic, et cetera. And almost every church that I know of has experienced similar things. So if we can maintain the pledges that if we fulfill the pledges that were pledged, we'll get through this year and we'll get better. But we're not likely to grow as a church until we have a more attractive facility. And once we move into that, we can work on growing a little bit. That's just my opinion. Next chart. One more thing. Next chart. As you know, our construction has been slipping. At one time, we thought we'd be out of the building for most of the winter. But as it turns out, our construction dates keeps moving towards spring. It made me make more sense to try to remain in this sanctuary as long as possible, perhaps moving on to online services, with Zoom for necessary meetings if necessary until the weather permits outdoor services, and maybe borrowing space in the neighboring church for the occasional in-person services on Saturday evenings. Next chart. It costs us a little over $1,200 a month to move to the school that Warren, names slipped me, but one of our vestry members did wonderful work researching all availability and came up with this. But it's still a stretch for us. Next chart. We didn't like being on Zoom during COVID. One of the reasons was we didn't know when it was going to be over, but we would know this. So we know that when construction starts, a certain number of months later, it's going to be over, and we're going to have a new facility. Next chart. All right, now it's time for questions, suggestions, whatever.
Can I ask a question? It's Gary.
You have to go up to the mic. So
I'm not going to walk up.
Can somebody
Can-
hear you? There's people on bring the mic to
Can you hear Gary?
Can you hear me, Chuck?
I can hear you, Gary.
I figured. You just let the words mention about growth in membership after everything's completed. Is the vestry going to brief a little later in the meeting, or has it been thought as to how the growth in membership is going to happen in our reopening campaign, our grand reopening?
I think that's a good question, Gary, but I think it's important, to remember the number of times folks come and visit us for a service or two and they don't come back. And it can't be because we weren't nice to them, because as you know, we're as nice and welcoming as we can be. On the few occasions when I've had an opportunity to speak to somebody and ask them if they're coming back, they wish that we had a worship space that was a little more conducive to the way they would like to worship. And, it'd be nice to have a service where we aren't interrupting it with trying to troop the kids from the nursery out to the lavatory, et cetera. But I think we just have a more attractive facility, and then if we concentrate on the invitation approach that the bishop talked about, we're not going to grow, we're never going to be a mega church. But we ought to be able to grow enough to fill our seats on Sunday, which we aren't doing now, even when you add the online folks. So that's the best answer I can give you, Gary.
That's fine. We'll work it from there.
Yeah.
All right.
This is Joe Rouge. Let me ask a question. What would it take, additional pledges, to keep Reverend Guimond for the rest of the year?
Reverend Guimond cost, and this is cost of the church, about $90,000 a year. So it costs about $45,000 Les, as you know, an anonymous donor has contributed some money to offset the cost of his salary. Take about, let me see, and you may or may not want to depend on the anonymous donor for that. But let's say it costs about $45,000, but then next year it costs $90,000.
Okay. So I would like to offer, and is it worth asking the congregation and asking for a one-time, for a pledge increase by individuals? We're willing to do that for this year to try to keep Reverend Guimond for the rest of the year. Put out a call, and if we don't get enough, we don't. But if we get enough, we go ahead and make that a decision of the congregation.
Wait,
The vestry did discuss that, and given the number of families that contribute and the various abilities of those families, we didn't think that that was feasible. Another question?
I was wondering, the $15,000 deficit, is that without Reverend Guimond's salary for the second half of the year? Okay.
Correct.
And then my question is about the youth programs and Messy Church. Where are those expenses shown here on this spreadsheet? Is that the youth program, youth ministry, or is it somewhere else?
Previous slide.
Yeah, it's in the youth ministry. Although Messy Church is separate from that. Messy Church doesn't cost us a lot. All right.
I'd like to add on to Susan's question. First of all, I appreciate the vestry bringing this forward. And the courage it took to come up with this decision. My only concern is when we talk about growing this church long term, we really are talking about young families. So I'm wondering what our strategy is if we don't have an associate rector that can concentrate on that population, what we are doing as a congregation for outreach to that group, and to make sure that we are continuing to build those programs so that when we do have a new facility, we will have services to offer the younger families that we are trying to attract.
I don't think that's necessarily a question just for Chuck. I think it's a question for all of us. As Bishop David challenged us today, this is our challenge. And where are we reaching out to invite new families with young children to come and be part of this? We have strong lay leadership that is supporting our youth and children ministries right now, and parents who are coming. So I think there is an opportunity for all of us to look at what our gifts are and how can we contribute to the growth of this church. I know a lot of times people look at the clergy and say, how are you going to grow the church? It's our church. It's actually your church because the clergy do come and go. But I think we all have a love and passion for our youth and children. I felt a call to ordain ministry because of my ministry with young children. And parents and leaders have stepped forward to work with Reverend G over this past year and will continue to do so. So I think it's shared. So be praying about your own heart where you're called to be in ministry. Yes, Tom.
Can I be next to say something?
Sure. I think.
Raising my hand again.
Sure.
For a question.
Yeah. You might be able to hear you from there. I'm just jumping in.
That's all right.
Come on
It's
up.
not for you.
I'll sit down.
So I just want to say a word on behalf to say that I'm a big fan of this budget. And I think a couple of things need to be said. One is that 2015 is when we started down this road, with the planning for it. So it's been rolling for a long time. And a big part of this is, well, where's the money going to come from? And that's a really good question, but a lot of this is moving out in faith. And and I think I just have great hopes for the future. And as to the building, I bet, we were talking about how are we going to use the space? We're going to have steps going down. We're going to have a beautiful chapel, all that sort of thing. You know what? I think my metaphysical answer is, I think the building will tell us. I think we'll sort of and we will grow into this new building. So I just think it's going to work out really great. I'm a big fan, and thanks to Chuck for all he's done.
I'd like to call for a motion to approve the budget.
So moved.
And seconded?
Second.
And is there further discussion? Did you have a question in the back?
Yeah, I did. I guess if the vestry has decided that asking for more pledges for Reverend G is not feasible, is that something that we can still reopen to discussion at some point? Because if Joe hadn't said it, I was going to. I think, I'd like to at least try. Yeah.
I think if we,
I don't know if that has anything to do with approving the budget
Yeah.
or not, but I don't want to close that door.
I think if we approve the budget today, there's always the opportunity to come back and revisit ideas of raising more funds for any purpose in the church, including keeping Reverend G on. I would,
I'll be candid, I'm concerned of the pressure it's going to put on our rector of having back to one priest. I got to tell you, we went through that.
Yes.
We've been through that here, and that was incredible pressure on a rector. And I just don't think that's sustainable. I'm being very candid.
So Tracy, I would like to tag on to both Joe and Barbara, right? How many pledging families do we have in this congregation?
oh gosh.
This year it was 68.
Well, that's who pledged. How many families do we have in this parish that would necessarily be pledging? 80?
You mean total?
I don't think it's much of,
Families.
Families that pledge or don't pledge.
Right.
families in general, in
Families
attendance.
in general, yeah.
In attendance is,
Well, it's a wiggly number these
Yeah.
days.
Sure.
You know, I think probably 150 people families consider St. Peter's in the Woods home.
Okay.
But if you look at pledging units, which includes some of those families and some people who are single or no children, we had 68 pledging units, which would include some of those families.
So I would like to just put a challenge out to this congregation that people prayerfully consider a pledge to keeping Reverend G with us. And maybe that is for the short term, for the year, for
Yeah.
2023. But, if we don't prayerfully consider this, I think we're losing an asset that is deeply
Very hard to replace.
troubling for me.
Thank you. So
So we'll-
Allison and then Marguerite.
I was just going to
And
tag on to
can I
what
just-
everyone was saying, that even if we don't, if we reach out requesting directed donations for this purpose, even if we don't raise everything, we could still extend, 9 months, 10 months, and then see where we are and consider, whether people can come together again, and hopefully the economy will change.
we do have more comments, but I just wanted to say, we also felt as a vestry that it was only fair to Reverend G to give him a point of departure so that he could work toward the next thing that he plans to do, rather than saying, well, we'll give it a couple more months and a couple more months and a couple more months. So just want to keep that in mind as well. And then we had some people over here. Marguerite?
Okay. Do you want to go to the mic? Just for the people at home, maybe might help the people who are listening.
I too am very fond of Father Guimond. His liveliness and excitement with whatever he does is really energizing. But I do want to point out that in the event that we cannot keep him, and in the event that we cannot, in the near future, hire an associate rector, when Bishop Dede was here, there was a point where she said, I cannot do this alone. We did not have the money at that point to even consider an assistant rector. And she said, okay, parish, it's up to you. And she said, if there's something that you want this church to keep doing, you're going to have to step forward and do that. And I still remember that first meeting that we had without, I keep wanting to call her Reverend Dede, without Bishop Dede, where members of the parish stood up, had a meeting in the office, and we said, okay, we've got 3 areas that we're really interested in: the church itself, outreach, and further outreach, meaning the international and everything else. I was the one who wanted to do local. Certain people standing by the door there wanted to extend the local into going to up to the mountain. Len was there with his wife, and he wanted to do international. We stepped forward, and we had somebody who wanted to do the children. We stepped forward, and we made sure what we wanted to happen, happened. So if you want young children and young families here, and we don't have Reverend G, somebody who really cares about this, and I know you're out there, you have to step out in faith and take care of it. And I just want to point out that it worked because there was some time before we had an assistant rector. Dee Dee was relieved to do, I mean, it's a lot that ministers do, but we were able to still do what we felt the church needed to do. So the whole thing today has been prayerfully consider what, in case it's needed, you are willing to stand up and lead and attract people to work with you.
Amen.
There's a motion on the floor, and a lot of this issue about Reverend G is not relative to the existing motion on the floor to accept or reject the budget. So you have a second, so if there's any other questions not relative to the specific
I agree. I
budget,
think we should call
we
for
ought
a
to move
vote.
on.
Yeah, I think we should call for a vote of approval for the budget. Those of you who are online, your votes will be counted. We have, someone's working on that. So, okay, great. All in favor of approving the budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. One abstention? Two?
Three abstentions, it
Oh.
looks like.
Do we need names, or do we just, 3 abstentions listed as that? Thank you. So,
Can I still, I would like to propose a motion that we, over the next 2 weeks, no later than 15 February, we get a call for additional pledges to cover Reverend Guimon for the rest of the year. If we don't get them by then, we're done. If we do, we then proceed.
And Joe, would you like to take the lead on running that campaign?
I'm willing to do that.
thank you. And thank you, Margaret, too. Do we have a second for that motion?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Was there any discussion?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think we kind of, any other discussion? Oh.
I don't have anything to add to this specific conversation, but I do want to say something to all of you. We are a community first. We love each other. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have hard places where we have to be gentle with each other, but we are a community first. And we cannot communicate to the community outside if we are not a community. And so I second what Marguerite was saying. We need to rally behind Reverend Susan. We need to be ready to take on whatever comes along because we are the community. We cannot rely on one person to do this. And so I just reiterate how important it is that we see this as a transformation process, a process of growing, of learning from each other, and being gentle with one another. Because we're going to get to the other side, and it's going to be wonderful. But we just have to keep that vision alive for ourselves and for our community. Thank you.
I've forgotten where we were in the process. So we had a motion
Has it been approved?
and a seconded.
No discussion, and
We're
then
moving on.
No in favor. We're moving on. Okay. So we go back to our slideshow with some comments from Reverend
Sure.
Susan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chuck.
Chuck, are you there?
Chuck, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll leave this and join you on YouTube.
He had a few little origami things going on.
Yes, Chuck is a master of the PowerPoint. Well, you all are quite fabulous. Let me just start by saying that. And our scripture passages from this morning and Bishop David's sermon are still ringing in my ears and offering me, and I hope all of you, a source of inspiration. And as we look back on 2022, and as we look even further back to the passion and commissioning of this church 30 plus years ago, to the season of worshiping in an elementary school while this place was being built, moving here 1998. 15 years ago, this church stepped forward in faith to become an independent parish, no longer receiving support, financial support from the diocese. It was a big step forward. You raised up a future bishop in Reverend Dede. Seminarians and assistant rectors have blessed us along the way, going on to leadership positions in this diocese and elsewhere. The Vision Team's work in 2016, let's remember that, as Tom mentioned, celebrated, discovered what you all felt about the gifts of this parish, and identified the limitations that our building did pose to future growth and accessibility and usability of the downstairs. No bathroom for the kids, we remember that. And then the excitement in 2019, right, when we kicked off the capital campaign and all of the generosity and work that has gotten us to this precipice of beginning construction. So looking back, there have been incredible highs and some lows along the way, and it's not always been easy. There have been flush years, and there have been lean years, like we find ourselves in today. But through it all, the thread that links us to the past and to the future and to each other is God. God has been faithful to St. Peter's in the Woods, and you have been faithful to God. 2022 was a year of inspiration, captured beautifully on our video, and again, thanks to Madeline and Brian for pulling it together. I wish I could have been here when the lambs were on the field mowing the lawn. My favorite thing ever. We had a fleet of electronic vehicles on display at our first ever Earth Day event. A brand new mobile food pantry you'll hear more about. Our children singing with the adult choir at Advent lessons and carols. 5 baptisms. A new landscaping team that refreshed the hillside with native plants and trees. Make sure you notice it on your way out. Women's and men's fellowship events, our creation care ministry, I just have to tell you, is the envy of other churches in the diocese and friends of mine around the country. Great work, and so much more. And you'll hear glimpses of many of our ministries in the coming moments. So good stuff is happening in our midst. The past year, we also saw some transitions here at St. Peter's in ministries and staff. Bart McMillan, our accompanist, moved on after 13 years of being with us. And Pat Keithley stepped forward to serve as our music minister, and we're very grateful for that. Our longest running men's group, which met on Saturday mornings and Gary Welschenbach shepherded for 25 years, decided to end its time in ministry together in fellowship. And while Gary he's attempting to formally step down as a lead of our hypothermia prevention shelter effort, he is still working with Mark and our team to get us organized to support that ministry this year. So again, as we listen for the call of where God is urging us to be, talk to Gary. Got some great ideas and some great passion. 2022 was also a time of sabbatical for me, and I was very grateful for that summer of rest and reflection, and to Reverend Guimont and to our lay leadership for stepping forward to keep things running so beautifully in my absence. And it was wonderful to return with renewed energy and hope for all the ministries that lie ahead. It takes many hands to offer our weekly worship, And a big thank you to all those ministries who work behind the scenes so that we can be together. Altar and Flower Guild, ushers, lectors, communion bread bakers, and our choir, our youth and adult acolytes, and our ability to live stream on Sunday mornings. We talk about evangelism. We have gained new members from people who have joined us online. So let's turn around and give a big thank you to Brian Lloyd and his team, which usually includes Mazzy Jarvis and Matthew Barton and Larry Bianco, and Tom helps too. So thank you all very much. As Chuck mentioned, where to worship during our construction has really become a real question. And for me, it seems that this delay in when we begin lets us stay here longer. And additional to the financial impact of going to the school, I think we need to be together. And I think we stay here as long as we can. And until the construction people kick us out, which they originally said 2 or 3 months, which that could get us maybe to April or May. By then it's nice out. And we bring our little canopies and our pop-up tents to the field and we enjoy the new landscaping and we are together. And over these next months, as Bishop David preached, and I think it's critically important that we continue to find ways to build community, whether it's here, small groups, in homes. And as the new vestry meets for our vestry retreat next month, we will be coming forward with specific ideas about how we do that in the months ahead. The staff is incredible at St. Peter's in the Woods. Jenny Dunn, our music director, who you'll hear from, Pat Keithley. Our parish admin, Heidi Jones, keeps everything running. Walter Purdy, our wonderful sexton. Madeline Walker has been a great asset, helping us communicate the good news of this faith community with the larger community. And of course, Reverend Guimond, our wonderful assistant rector, deeply spiritual priest, leader, and friend. He's running away. And I think all of you, from the energy that I felt from you today, definitely appreciate him as well. And we will pray and see where the Holy Spirit leads us in our ability to keep him longer than the budget presently allows for. I love working with him, and I know you all do too. So we've heard you loud and clear on that. In 2022 rather, we bid a final farewell to several of our parishioners and close family members: Gail Call, Jack Nicholas, Warren Martin, Jean Rogers, Judith O'Rourke, and Doug Davies. So we pause to mourn their earthly presence among us, even as we give thanks for their eternal life in God's loving presence. Today we will elect new vestry members, and I want to thank our outgoing leadership, Senior Warden Tracy O'Malley, Tim Ashmore, Fran Stockwell, and Mary Jane Trombley. And many thanks for all of your faithfulness. Thank Ann Hooper and her stewardship team, our finance chair, Chuck Link, finance committee, treasurer Pam Mack, Steve Wharton, Mary Beth Brown, and Pam Mack, who head up our building committee, the executive team. You'll be hearing from them. And so as we move into this new year at the church, we do so with gratitude for the past and hope for the future, even if this in-between moment feels a little bit uncertain. And I think we just need to name that. And we remember throughout the history of this church, throughout the history of the church, where do God's people turn when they are unsure, when the way forward seems a bit unclear? We dig deep into our relationship with God. We turn in trust to God, trusting that God has a plan for us. And then we try to align ourselves with God's vision. And this is a season of revisioning for St. Peter's in the Woods. We stay close to Jesus and each other, supporting one another with humility and love and laughter, getting us through the bumpy times as well as the good times, sharing the good news of Jesus Christ, which we are blessed to experience week after week, year after year in this special place. Next year, we will be back in our newly refurbished building, sharing that excitement that our original founders experienced 25 years ago when they opened the doors for this place for the first time. So there is much to look forward to. I'm grateful to be your rector and walk alongside you during this season of ministry, and we will be more than okay. God has given us what we need, and we have work to do as we build up God's kingdom together. Stay focused on that. I'm grateful for you, and we give thanks to God for it all. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I think I have some words to say, right? As I sat down to write my notes, I was having in mind the story of Nicodemus. I think many of you might remember the story of Nicodemus, this highly respected Pharisee who came to see Jesus at night. And I like the story for multiple reasons, but I particularly like Nicodemus' quest for answers. He's not afraid of his unknowingness by asking questions. And he knows when he stands in the presence of the Messiah. He knows when he stands in holy ground. And considering that the whole world is holy ground, but it did not take me long to realize that St. Peter's in the Woods is for sure a holy ground that is nurturing me spiritually and on many levels. The same way Nicodemus asked to ask questions, I needed to ask Mark how to use the table seesaw so I don't come back from Grace Mountain fingerless. Yes. Right? I needed to ask help from Chris, Camilo, Andrew, Caroline, Charlotte, Barbara, in order to better serve our young families. It also relying on the Mercy Church team for their commitment and love for this ministry, and Alice, MJ, Tracy, and Amy. And this is what my second year working at St. Peter's in the Woods has done for me, making me realize that ministry is done with and for God's people. And that relationship is the cement that holds us together. And I'm going to be full disclosure with you. When Reverend Susan went on sabbatical this summer, I was really nervous, really nervous. But very quickly, I realized that it's not about me. No, it's about God's people that I happen to serve right now. And this service has become much more enjoyable when I find myself in a congregation like this where people support me and want me to succeed. And a huge shout out to Heidi. I could have done it. I sincerely, during the summer, I said, oh my goodness, I could not have asked for a better parish administrator to support what I'm doing. And I would like to thank Jenny in the choir, Walter, the vestry, and especially our senior warden, our outgoing senior warden. Thank you. You're a good one. I owe that to Tracy and Brian. And for all of you who supported me, give me some word of encouragement, they meant so much to me. And I could not have asked for a better mentor, Reverend Susan, right? So please, thank you for everything I am learning. And I've learned and I'm still learning from you. And like Nicodemus, we all need a moment with Christ, a moment that will transform us in one way or another. And sometimes even you don't see the transformation. It's there. It's happening. It's like the wind, as Jesus said to Nicodemus. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. Now this transformation happened in the last year, every Wednesday that I had the privilege to sit at Chloe's Cafe and eat with the guys, with the Romeos, and having good conversation. We always pray before we eat. And we realized that people notice that this group pray before they eat. And you know that doesn't happen too much in public setting right now, right? So who knows what the wind of spirit has done through that. And it's also the same transformation that happened every Tuesday with a faithful group to pray, with a group of guys going hiking, making pizza, or visiting the National Cathedral. So again, this is holy ground where every single member of this congregation is an essential part of what God is doing here. I can feel it. While working with the kids at Mercy Church or Children's Chapel and the youth group that meets once a month for a great time of fellowship. So when we met last November to bake cookies for the Lamb Center, I witnessed a joy in serving that our kids have that comes directly from their parents, but also from the identity of this parish. That is outreach, service, serving to others. And I can see it. I feel it in their eyes while baking and making their hands messy in the dough, making cookies. And last year, there was also profound transformation in how we do Adult Forum. While reading different types of books is great, we wanted to try new ideas. And Reverend Susan and I, plus Ellen, who is doing Adult Forum, she's doing a wonderful job. And I would like to ask an round of applause for Ellen. Thank you for that. We decided to invite people from within and outside the parish, and Ellen will talk more about that. But I'm so grateful for her collaboration. So this last paragraph I read, before I'm gonna read it as I wrote it. I'm not gonna change anything in it. All right. So I think the wind is blowing, and the Spirit is at work through us and in us. And sometimes when we are doing God's work in a particular community, we don't know for how long. And when God is calling us to another place, sometimes we can find it difficult and bittersweet sometimes. But looking things from a bigger and a longer perspective, the whole world is God's field for mission. Therefore, when the month of June comes to sadly leave this congregation, please know that the relationship and memories that we have formed is forever. I will be in another lot of the field, but it's one field, God's field. And the same Spirit, the wind of Spirit will be blowing over us all. Until then, we have work to do, and let's do it together. Thank you.
Some slides of the things that Reverend G has done with various groups and the youth. Oh. Could we go back a slide, please?
What were you doing lying in the street?
I was thinking about bigger picture. So Len Leroy and I were on the Grace Mountain. We were taking some picture of probably 8 little cats, meaning kitty cats, under the car. So we lay down on the floor to take the pictures. Is Len here? Len is here, yeah. So we take a picture, and Chris take a picture of all of us taking the little cats. So we had to call the owner of the cat so they can, take them out under the car so we can move the car.
Laughter continues. So we do have some special guest speakers today. We have Mark Duvall from Mission and Outreach, Alan Ikochia from the Faith Formation, and Jenny Dunn from Music. So Mark, are you around? There you are.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I like to start out this annual meeting the same way I have each year, and do something that we don't do really well as a parish, and that is support each other and say thank you for all your hard work. So if you'll turn to the person next to you and say thank you for supporting Mission and Outreach. So as a good buddy of mine said many years ago, Mission Outreach is a team sport. And that's true. We've got longtime parishioners who supported us, whether showing up, writing a check, praying for us. We've got a partnership with the Clifton Lions Club supporting us. We've got the Matthew 25 Foundation supporting us. And believe it or not, we actually have first-time visitors supporting us. I was standing up here one Sunday asking for money. I don't remember what it was for. And this parishioner walked up to me and said, hey, thanks, I really appreciate what you're saying. It's really good. First time visitor here, and shook my hand, and there was money in his hand.
Slipped you a couple of bills.
Slipped me a couple of bills. So I say that to follow on what everybody else is saying here. Invitation goes a long way. You ask somebody for something, they're going to give you something. So I'm going to keep it brief. I don't have a lot of slides. I've got 3, I think. But I'm just going to go back 1. You can't kill the lead. So starting off here with Mission Outreach, You Saved Me. This is kind of the quote that I used to encompass everything that we did this year. We had an awesome year, St. Peter's and Wood. We really did. We had an amazing year with the work that we did. Many of the organizations that we supported are down here at the bottom, but this quote came from now I told Reverend Susan I was going to do this without crying. This came from someone that we helped through the pop-up pantry, who, when given the food, she looked at Chris Camillo and said, "You saved me." Keep that in mind as I talk about these different things on the next page, because that's what we are doing as a parish. We are saving the people in Fairfax County and in the world, okay? And I apologize, you all can't see, I'm a better door than a window. Next slide. No pictures this year, just facts. I believe that if you tell people what you need money for, they will continue to support you and they will give you money in the future. I know money's tight, but I also know that what we're doing is we're saving lives with them. So let me go through each of these kind of quickly. Up at the top here, the fish, the lamb, and the facets, combined donation of almost $4,000. That money goes to places that we will never know and helping people that we will never know, but we are saving lives there. Guatemala Youth Initiative, $5,000 in support of 150 teen mothers. This was as of last year. Prevented over 1,500 unplanned pregnancies and distributed over 9,000 condoms. It's pretty cool to be able to stand in the church and talk about 9,000 condoms. And nobody gets uncomfortable. Again, we're saving people. People we will never meet, but people whose lives that we are changing. The Arise Campus Ministry. We have a yearly donation of $2,000. We changed the angel tree this year and asked for gift cards to support their food pantry to address food insecurity. $2,500 in giant gift cards went directly to Arise. That came from you all. Drew, who came and spoke here one Sunday, he was actually able to take some students who are members of Arise over to the grocery store who did not have any food. And he was able to help them shop. He brought his kids along because he thought it was a little weird that this older guy was helping this college kid shop at a grocery store. But he tells the story that this person wasn't able to go home because they weren't welcome home by their parents and the university was closed. They didn't have a place to stay, and on top of that, they didn't have any food. You all saved them. Grace House on the Mountain. $3,000 to send a group of crazy parishioners and Reverend G down there to deliver 125 plus backpacks. That came from the Lions Club. That was the partnership there with the team sport. But we also built a wheelchair ramp. Okay, wheelchair ramp. We've all seen them. You know, there's ways around them. But in this situation, we really did save somebody there. We had an individual who was not able to get out of the house, who was not able to go to their doctor's appointments, who just physically could not go downstairs. It was a non-starter. Without a ramp, they were going to die in that house. That was the simple reality. On top of that, his wife was getting ready to go into knee surgery. She wouldn't have been able to get out of the house either. We helped save them. Holly Elementary, $4,500 for over 500 weekend meal kits. These are weekend meal kits that help kids who who have difficulties, are down on resources for food for the weekend. It gets them through the weekend until they get back to school the next week. That money is going directly to them. You save them. Burke United Methodist, I'm stealing this from Chris Camillo. I'm sorry, Chris, but I'm going to take a little bit of credit for it because it is mission outreach, and because you got me to go help water the things, and I didn't kill anything, so I get to claim some credit. Burke United Methodist Food Pantry, we delivered over 108 pounds of fresh vegetables from our garden. That's ours, right up back here. to the people of Fairfax County, saving them. And finally, the new initiative that we started this year, the mobile food pantry. $5,000 to feed 120 families with more than 700 bags of food. You saved them. This is your work. This is what you've done for 2022, good St. Peter's in the Woods. Well done.
Can I just ask?
Yep.
Could you talk about the mobile food pantry, just a hair, about how that works?
Sure. So on the first Saturday of the month, a group of parishioners, soon to be you included, get together and we go out and shop for 15, 16 items. I might be wrong about that. And we come together, fill those bags of food. We rent a U-Haul truck because you wouldn't believe how many bags it takes to fill all this food. We go deliver to 40 families down in the Hagel Circle area. The first month we went there, there was a lot of curiosity. There was no trust. They didn't know who we were. They didn't know what a U-Haul truck was. They were only told through Holly Elementary, hey, there's this group of parishioners showing up who's going to hand out food. Sure. But they showed up. And a couple of them showed up, and then you could kind of see them leaking out of the houses coming over. This last month that we went, there were 15 families in line, because we tell them where to stand by this mailbox as a point of reference, in line 20 minutes before we showed up. We were done handing out the food in about 12 and a half minutes. So we're taking the food to them. When I first came here, we talked about getting across the berm. I know that Marguerite has talked about that as well. We're doing that, folks. You all are doing that. You all are helping save people. So thank you.
Can you talk about how the families are chosen? They're not just random families in the neighborhood there.
So, yeah, sorry, they're not, thank you. I should have you come up and do this instead. You probably wouldn't cry when you talked about it. The families are identified by the staff at Holly Elementary. We've got a ringer on site, my wife, who's the social worker there, but she works with the ESOL teacher and with the other staff to identify those families who we know, or they know, have little to no food, or are in really bad situations where their power's getting cut off, their water's getting cut off, and oh, by the way, they've got no food. Literally, that's their situation, right 15 minutes down the road. Not another state, not another country, 15 minutes down the road. So those families originally were notified to show up. That is really not happening now. Now they know who we are. There's a trust established. They see us. We're seeing the same families each week, and they're approaching us. They're talking to us, and there's a relationship that's happening, which is really amazing. Coming a long way from the who are these weird people showing up in a U-Haul truck, handing out food to total strangers. Nobody does this. No, you know who does that? St. Peter's in the Woods does that. You should be proud of that.
Mark.
Yes, sir.
To go along with, since you brought your significant other
Yes.
up, to go along with that, the Christmas trees and everything that gets sold out here for that. She has identified one of those ingrown people at Union Mill Elementary School.
Yep.
That leads to $3,000 worth of gift cards.
Right.
For Christmas and Thanksgiving for folks at Liberty Middle, Centerville High School, and the three other elementary schools.
Right.
That get food for their holidays.
So when we talk, when Reverend G talks about that wind that blows and we don't know where it goes, that's an example of that. People we will probably never run into in our lifetime here in our own county, we are saving them and we're affecting change. Next slide. So 2022 was great. 2023 is going to be even better. What are we going to do? I've got 3 bullets. The first one is we're going to do more of the same plus. What does that mean? We started doing the mobile food pantry this year. We did it for October, November, December. We're going to do it for a full year. We've committed to that. We're doing it for a full year this year. We are getting to the point where we can show larger organizations that we have enough experience that we can sign up and have people donating food to us, and we then distribute the food. So all of the burden will not be on our parish to support that financially. We're going to partnership with Arise. So I was just recently asked to be a board member with Arise Campus Ministries. And thank you. Not sure what that means yet, but I've been talking to one of my mentors saying, what in the world did I sign up for? And his response was, just be quiet initially, or you will be doing everything. But what does that mean? What does that partnership mean? Well, that partnership means we're going to be bringing in, we've invited the members of Arise to come to our parish once a month to help stuff the weekend meal kits. It is a very easy task, fairly laborious for 2 people, but very easy for 6 to 8. It gives them an opportunity, this community an opportunity, to come to a church where in other situations they're not welcome. They're not welcome at a church because of who they love and who they're attracted to or what they look like. I told Reverend Drew, I said, listen, we don't care who you love. If you can't follow simple instructions by putting 1 item in each Ziploc bag, we got bigger problems in the world. He laughed. He says, I think we can make that happen. So we're actually going to go over to George Mason in February to do that with them on their turf. Make sure that they know that we're safe, just like the people down at Hagel Circle realize that we're safe. We're not weird. And then we're gonna bring them here. And it's going to happen in the Mission and Outreach Room. Oh, wait, you didn't know we had a Mission Outreach Room. Surprise, surprise, we do. Harry Johnson and I commandeered the nursery and renamed it. Thank you to Heidi for the wonderful sign. The Mission Outreach Room. That room will continue to exist during construction because it's not being affected. It's got a side door so we can access that throughout the whole construction phase. This opportunity with Arise allows them to come in to a church, not be turned away, have them give the opportunity to give back, and quite candidly, Liz and I don't have to sit there and fill 100 of these meal kits on a random Wednesday night in my house, or just task more of you all. Again, it goes back to that, all we need to do is offer an invitation. I asked what we could do to help, thinking that it would involve writing a check, and I was flipped with the, no, actually, we need the opportunity to come serve. So the last thing, it's 2023. We thought we'd do something creative and join the rest of the world on social media with the mobile food pantry. So full disclosure, I'm 52 years old. This wasn't my idea. I don't understand totally what this means. I know what each of these icons mean.
You're going to go viral, by the way.
We are going to go viral. I know what each of these icons mean, and I know what they can do for good and for bad in the world. But I was talking with about the mobile food pantry with my son Harrison, and he said, "Oh, you should go on social media." I said, "No, we're not going to do that." And he said, "No, I think it'd be a really good idea." And I said, "Listen, I don't like that whole public begging thing. You know, go out and ask total strangers for money." And he said, "Well, what do you think of billboards, Dad?" I said, "Well, they're kind of ugly, but they serve a purpose, and they're not very plentiful." And he goes, "You understand that's what this is, right?" So we started talking about it, and I came to understand that through videos posted on TikTok, your own opinions aside about TikTok, and Instagram, we drive people to YouTube. Now, worst case scenario, we simply spread the word that this is what this little church in Fairfax Station is doing. And maybe some other churches realize, man, this mobile food pantry, which by the way, nobody else in the country is doing this. I've done the research. Nobody is doing what St. Peter's in the Woods is doing. Maybe other churches learn what mobile food pantries do, how they can work, and what they can support. Best case scenario, we go viral, and I mean that totally seriously, and we make a lot of money through click-throughs on YouTube. Did I get that right, Harrison? Yeah. Thank you.
He's hanging around to give you
That's right, he is.
That's right.
And then at some point, some large organization like Kellogg's sees it related to food and says, "Hey, you know what, St. Peter's in the Woods, we'll give you $10,000 if you mention Raisin Bran twice in your video." And I was like, "That's not really a thing, Harrison." And he pulled up the videos and showed me it is a thing. So we're doing the mobile food pantry. We drop the word Raisin Bran twice in it, and a check for $10,000 comes into St. Peter's in the Woods. All the money, and this is if we strike lightning in a bottle. All the money that comes through the click-throughs and the ads on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok funnel right back into the church. There are people out there who are making money for lighting fireworks off in their house. Why can't we do this with helping other people, right? Why not us? So, 2023, we're going viral, folks, on social media. It's going to be a real simple ask for the parish. All you got to do is send the link, and like I'm going to send it to my son's fraternity house. Every kid in the fraternity house will watch it, and then their friends will watch it, and then before you know it, who knows what will happen. So I'm sorry to take so much time. Thank you very much. You guys did an awesome job this year, 2022. Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to ask for questions.
There you go. So the cost of a bag, is it still like $60 or somewhere around there?
For the mobile food pantry?
Yeah. What was the cost of a bag?
$70.
70?
70 is what you're going to have on the thingy budget. Yeah.
$70?
$70 per bag.
65 or 70, I thought we had it down to 65.
Yeah, we've got it down. We've been playing around with our items because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but eggs are really expensive.
Oh my God, yeah.
And if you buy 40 dozen eggs, it gets really expensive. So we're kind of playing around with our totals, trying to give a good amount of food on a monthly basis to a large group of people. That's somewhat consistent and doable for there. So I would say between $50 and $60 for trying to keep the cost down. Again, we go viral. Who knows what that's going to end
And
up?
then my next question is, so is the social media thing going to have like a QR code?
Yes.
That's
So
what people take
wow. Did you talk to Harrison before asking this question? So before I got up here, he said, "Hey, Dad, did you put the QR code in the link tree on the slide?" I'm like, "No, Harrison." He goes, "Oh, great." There will be a QR code that will link you to all three of these, and if you go onto any one of these, there will be a link on there that will send you to the others. So again, TikTok and Instagram are supposed to drive people to YouTube. I'm going to be working with Brian and Madeline to get this done. I'm sorry I took too long.
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
I think more conversation to be had. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Ikochia. You may not see me very often because I actually worship online, so a special thank you to Brian and the whole team back there, and hello to everyone who's online. I want to underscore some things that were said earlier during this parish meeting. Marguerite mentioned how, it depends upon us to step up and help. And I'm kind of an example of that situation. I noticed that Reverend Susan, when there was no assistant rector, had a lot on her plate and was trying to juggle adult education formation. And I said, you know what, I've got some strategic planning background. Maybe I can help you plan this. And it's grown, and my involvement's grown. And I want to encourage you all, as everyone said, to be prayerful and think about ways you can make a contribution as well. So, adult faith formation. What is it? Think of this as an umbrella, this presentation. When we think of adult formation, there's so many different ways that we can learn and think through the ways God is speaking to us and speaking to others. And that's really the basis of what we do. I put this in a week because there's no reason you can't join at least one of these groups. We've got something going on almost every day of the week. So we start on Sundays. If I move back here, can everyone hear me? We start on Sundays at noon online on Zoom with our adult faith formation, where, I guess I should have moved the slide over a little bit. Sorry about that. This group addresses all kinds of different things. We pick up books that might be more secular in nature and have a slight religious bent. We pick up other books that are very religious in nature. We have started inviting speakers to come in and get involved. So sometimes we might have something that is just one session, one speaker. You can come for an hour and participate. You don't have to sign up for, an entire year. You can look at the e-news and you might find one book that you're interested in and checking out. And the best thing about this group, there are no tests. So please feel free to join us, okay? This is a 1-hour program, and Reverend G and I facilitate this together, and we have a great time. And I will underscore everything Chuck said. It's been my honor and pleasure to work with Reverend G on this. So this year, we also our guest speakers included some of Reverend G's friends from around the world. So we learned about the Jewish faith from someone who is a rabbi and studying to be a PhD. Learned about their culture. Another friend of his who's Indian. We talked a little bit about their religion and their practices. We honored our veterans with Bob Gant and Rich. I thought I saw Rich here earlier, but talking about their service and how God was present during that service for them. And we're currently now working through Inspired by Giants. And that is I think we have one more session to go. And then we start really, we'll have a guest speaker, Reverend G. Was a guest speaker earlier in the year where he talked about his life in Haiti. He had received so many questions of people asking him about what it was like in Haiti, and especially compared to what we see in the news about Haiti. It was a wonderful presentation, and he'll also be doing another one, I think on the 12th, right, Reverend G? On the 12th, talking a little bit about voodoo and Christianity in Haiti. So I encourage you all to join us for that hour. And then we'll move into Lent, and we will have a program for Lent. So that's kind of how Sunday works. We'll move on now. The next adult formation that we have occurs on Tuesdays. You'll advance the slide. This is Pat Keithley and Reverend Susan with the Education for Ministry program. This is a 4-year program. However, you don't have to sign up for 4 years. So the commitment is year by year. So if you're interested, you can join up for the first year, and there's no requirement to go on, but we hope that you will. And the way this program is structured is the first year is to focus on the Old Testament. The second year is to focus on the New Testament. The third year then moves into church history in a much more in-depth than, of course, the Episcopal 101. And then the fourth year is really theology, ethics, and interfaith encounters. Sorry, say that fast a couple of times. So please talk to Pat and Reverend Reverend Susan. If you're interested, that program typically starts in the fall, but I'm not sure when you solicit probably around that time. Yes. Okay. It's administered through the University of the South. And so you'll have, you will have significant, textbooks and things of that nature. So we encourage you to look into that if that's something that interests you. If you'll advance the slide for me. The next is Wired Word. This group meets on Wednesday nights. They're currently in a hybrid status. And this is, if you don't have a lot of time, this might be a group that you might be interested in. They will typically take a short article or a piece of poetry and examine that article out of a newspaper, out of a magazine, and talk about faith and the challenges of faith in today's society. So that is usually an hour to an hour and a half in that group. It's a wonderful group, and so might consider that. Reverend G is currently the head of that. So as you can see, Reverend G is doing a lot. We'll move right on to the next presentation on Thursday morning. So see, I'm telling you, every day we've got something going on. Thursday morning, Reverend Susan, Reverend Guimond host this theology program. And these slides are a sampling of the things that they have addressed this past year. They had a presentation by the bishop, a formalized program, and then they've explored some of the writings and teachings of N.T. Wright. They had another program called Centered, and they've also been watching the Chosen movies and programs, and I understand you've got another one of those coming up soon, right? So the next session of Chosen. So there's a host of different things that take place on Thursday morning, and that's more of a deep dive in theology. Right, and on to the next slide, please. So we give you a little break on Fridays typically. So this is another program, obviously, social justice, so important to all of us. And this is also important as we think about growing this church and who we are and who we're going to be, and making sure that we're not considering people other, right? And so the church has explored in depth a program that was led very successfully by Chuck Link, which was the Sacred Ground 10-part series. And we're always looking to restart that for anyone who missed that the first time. So if you're interested, you can let Reverend Susan know. Maybe you'd like to be one of the people who leads that. I'm sure Chuck would be able to help give any kind of feedback and help you get started. And this summer, Reverend G led the Church Cracked Open, which was a very successful study this past summer. And this group currently is in prayerful consideration about how to integrate practical application. Sorry?
Reverend G and Chuck.
Oh, and Chuck, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Apologize, Chuck. So Reverend G and Chuck are on that team, and so looking at what they can do to do practical application as a group in social justice. Okay. And then the next slide, I think, did I have one more? Yes, I did, that's right. So as Reverend Susan mentioned earlier during the service, she is establishing another Episcopal 101 program, so you can see her if you'd like to attend. This is for obviously new people who are interested in the church, as well as any of you who'd like to learn more. So we have a little bit, hopefully, for everyone in the church. We also are very open to receiving any feedback, anything that you're interested in exploring, anything that you're interested in learning about, any guest speakers that you'd like to have, just let me or either Reverend Susan or Reverend Guimond know, and we'd be happy to assist you. So, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I was going to say, the start of my speech said good morning, and I'm going to change that to good afternoon. Thank you all for sticking it out and being part of this community today. So I'm really excited to have a couple minutes. I don't always get to talk to everyone. I'm usually a little more behind the scenes. It's been a really exciting year this year for music. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Brian, if you don't mind. It's been really nice to finally find a consistent groove post-COVID shutdowns and restrictions, which hit the choir really hard in comparison to some other programs. This time last year, the choir was actually taking a break to be abundantly cautious amidst another COVID surge, and it's really refreshing to be here a year later, finally enjoying some consistency of a pre-COVID world. Our main focus of the last year and a half, kind of middle COVID, I'm hesitant to say post-COVID world, since I joined St. Peter's has been the adult choir and making sure that we are building that up. So we have leadership on Sunday mornings. We're back into our normal routine, Thursday night rehearsals, Sunday morning services. So if you noticed during adult formation, there's a gap Thursday nights. We can fill it for you. So you now know what you're doing every day of the week. We've got you covered. It's been an absolute pleasure to see the choir program grow over this past year and a half. We've welcomed new members, and it's honestly just a really lovely time to be in community with one another. It's kind of a little hour and a half of sanctuary in the week is always how I view it. 2 outside events that we did, next slide, Brian, if you don't mind. This year was an Evensong with Good Shepherd, and we had the privilege of singing at the Interfaith Thanksgiving service. along with choirs of other faith traditions. That was honestly, I think, my favorite music moment of the year. We also saw a return of the youth in our congregation joining in the choir. We had a small group rehearsing for a couple weeks before lessons and carols and had them join us in singing one of the songs. We also brought in some outside musicians. Madeline Walker is wonderful as always in gifting us with her beautiful flute playing. We also had Lyden Butler and Juliana Costa share their talents with us as pianists during the Christmas season. I'm incredibly thankful to Pat for these past couple months. I do not know what I would do without her and her creativity, and very grateful for the talents that she brings to us. We are looking forward to continuing this. We are embarking on an uncertain couple of months ahead, but my word of the year with choir has been flexibility, and that it is our job to be flexible in how we are offering of ourselves, and not getting bogged down in the, where are we practicing, what's happening, doing this, and that we're along for the ride at this point, as we continue to grow and just enjoy being with one another. So I encourage you, if you have a musical gift, if you're like, I wonder what I should do on Thursdays, you should come sing with us. But thank you so much for your support of the music ministry, and just for being this wonderful community.
Actually, before I started, I have a suggestion for the for the building committee. You may want to think about this. I think it's a great idea. We should have souvenir ceiling tiles. And if for $10, you can buy one when we do the construction, take it home and put it on your mantelpiece.
Maybe they can be signed
It would be,
by-
I mean, I just think, it just came to me like that.
They can be signed by Bishop Jones and Reverend.
So very briefly, the parish retreat is coming up. From previous instruction, you know what we're doing on the first weekend of June, which is the food pantry. So therefore, the second week of June, now we're going to go to Schreinemont. I assume most of you have been there, know it, love it, and this is an opportunity I hope as many people as possible will join us. We have a spreadsheet from those who have put money down last time. By the way, this will be 4 years since our last retreat when you think about how time goes by. And so I don't need to say any more. I'll send you will get a personal email from me asking what you think about this and tailored to if you have money on the books and that sort of thing. So we'll get the word out to everybody. So just 2 words. 1, music. We'll sing and play music on the porch again. Bring your guitars. And the second is, this may be 2 words, pickleball. Yes, we need pickleball leagues, so start thinking about how you want to break into your teams. But it's going to be a great time, and oh yes, Reverend Susan will probably lead some kind of discussion thing. But we'll be outdoors, and it will be fun. Yes.
Do you have space for people who weren't here 4 years ago?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry if I came off that way. No, we especially, we love new people to participate in this. Have you been to Schreinemont before?
I have, but not with this parish.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, we just, I think it's the right kind of pace of a retreat. Some discussions, talking to people, and I have to say my first retreat was wonderful. I met Marguerite. She was my group leader. But I said it sounds funny, but I mean, to me, it's a wonderful example. I mean, we didn't really ever talk before then. And so we got to know each other. It's great.
Everybody's welcome. That's the short answer. Yes.
And so do you have a deadline for when you're going to
Yeah,
collect
thanks.
the money?
60 days before. So we'll, that's in my notes. The Monday after Easter, we'll need your commitment, and then we'll need to send the money. What?
Children are free, mention that.
Thank you. Yes, thanks. Yeah, I should have written all this down. The children are going to be paid. The children go free. The Shrima doesn't charge us for under 3, and they lowered their rates.
Don't forget the meatloaf, don't forget the chicken.
Yeah, meatloaf, chicken. Thank gosh, you guys know this. It was great. And the children go free in that church, and due to your future generosity, we're going to cover it.
Lets the kids go free. Your generosity.
How much is it for?
Yes, thank you. These questions are helpful. It's $90 per night double occupancy, and it's $115 per night single occupancy.
And all those details will be shared.
Yeah.
How about the next slide?
Okay, yeah, it's all right. Next slide. And you can look at this later on. I just want ask that you help me put out the word on Steinmont camps. They made all the difference for our family, for our children. We have a new grandchild, by the way. I just want that out there. And this is the new father right here, Ed, a few years ago. St. George's Camp, marvelous experience. So I think we need to do more to get the word out. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you to all of our guest speakers. It was great to hear all the good things that are going on here. And we have a few slides for you to look at some of the other things that we didn't have speakers for them, but they're very active in this community.
Yeah.
Giving garden. It was mentioned 108 pounds of food that was given to the needy. A lot of volunteers. Chris Camilla heads it up. Thank you very much, Chris. And now we're going to hear from the building committee. Mary Beth, thank you.
For those of you who might not know me, I'm Mary Beth Brown. We go to the 8 o'clock, so maybe some of you wouldn't recognize me. But anyway, I'm one of the co-chairs of the building committee. We have an executive committee that include myself, Steve Warden, and Pam Mack. And behind the scenes, we've been working very hard. It's hard to know it. Everybody's so excited about, our project, and I'd like to emphasize this is what we're going to be in when we're finished. Now, site plan, the civil engineers resubmitted our minor site plan to the county and just got it approved this month, which in turn allows the building permit, which had already been approved, to be released and the actual permit to be issued. From the point of the issuance of the permit, the contractor has 2 weeks to get started from our notice. That's considered notice to proceed. So that's all good news. It seems like things got delayed, really through not our control, but mostly the counties. And while we were all frustrated, especially us on the committee, I think in the end it might have been a good thing. As Reverend G and Reverend Susan have mentioned, there are good parts. We got to worship here for Christmas. We might, once we're out of the building, we might have good weather. And there, if you can switch to the next slide, please. We sold this piece of land by the fire department to the county, and they're dragging their feet on executing that contract. Has cost us more money in legal fees, but now the county's so embarrassed, they're going to reimburse us for more than they had said. So, it's a good thing.
Cover your legal fees.
Yeah, they're covering our legal fees and the civil fees, yeah. But they had a limit, and now that they've gone over that limit, they're going to reimburse us for more, and it won't come out of our building love money.
So the firehouse was dragging their feet, or the county?
The county lawyers. The person that Tom Keithley signed the contract with at the county left, and the new person didn't get up to speed fast enough and kind of just didn't, whatever.
That was the paper underneath everything.
Yeah. So anyway, in the end, that deal is supposed to give us $90,000 and the Diocesan Missionary Society 10, because they own the land and we operate the building and the land. We own the building, we operate the land. Anyway, so we're going to get more in reimbursements for this land deal. And we have use of it for its intended purpose in perpetuity. So we still get to park there. but it's just owned by them. They just needed it to make a certain ratio of their square footage to their acreage.
For their renovation.
For their renovation, yes. Okay, next slide. In doing this project, it was pointed out to our committee that the original special permit that was granted to St. Peter's in the Woods oh so many years ago was required to record the conservation easement, which had always existed as part of that. And it was discovered that that was never done. So I overlaid the different plats, and this pink area is what is now going forward going to be considered the conservation easement. We are not supposed to touch it, okay? And part of the special permit amendment that we went through in order to get the county land exchange requires us to keep our special permit amendment posted somewhere publicly all the time. So, you know, this will be available and people need to just keep in mind a tickler. Yeah, we're not supposed to do something in certain areas because there needs to be the tree cover maintained and the, you know, the pervious ground. Yeah.
Where is 123 and/or where is our church building on that?
It's a problem for me because I'm used to this stuff. So this is 123.
Okay.
And this is the neighborhood road.
Okay.
And here's our church.
Okay.
No, that's the drive through our parking lot. Here's Fairview Drive.
Okay.
Fairview Woods Drive, whatever.
Got it.
So here's the church.
Okay.
So this is the Memorial Garden.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It used to be in the conservation easement, but now it's not because we redrew it around it. So you can see we've been really busy. And given that we're going to be starting construction soon, if you can give me the next slide. Steve has ordered 2 of these 20-foot containers. They're going to go, again, here's our building, here's the offices. They're going to go right out here so that we have somewhere to store everything that's in here. And so there will be, next slide. Okay, there will be a work day coming up where we do that storage. And this is just to tell you that we've already had a successful effort to clear stuff out, especially downstairs. Trips were made to the dump, trips were made to Goodwill, and we had to create room because to save money, we're letting the contractor have half of one of the rooms downstairs instead of a trailer. So that's a way that we were able to, you know, cut the costs. And then someday, soon after those are there, we will have a moving day and we'll get a crew together and move stuff.
And maybe we'll move the bulk, you know, a lot of the extra chairs first, so
Mhm.
that we can stay here longer.
Right.
And then we'll have a second moving day, but we
Yeah.
can get a lot of the stuff.
Yeah. And then eventually, when we stop worshiping in
Yes.
here and they're working on here, the piano and the organ will be in that closet with electricity and the piano needs to be watered or something. So anyway,
Thank you so much.
I don't know if anybody has any questions.
We'll have to hold watering. We're good.
I'm not watering the piano. Yeah.
So in terms of the areas that are going to be actually renovated are this room, the entry
The
areas,
vestibule, yep.
the hallway,
The hallway will receive new flooring.
okay, and the kitchen.
And then there's the new prayer room that's part
Right.
And the
bump
bathroom
up.
downstairs.
And the new bathroom downstairs.
And this vestry, or vestment area and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And downstairs we'll just have the new bathroom, but it won't have a lot of renovation down there.
True.
Elevator.
The
and
elevator.
The elevator,
And
which
the
is
stairs.
huge
And the
because,
stairs. Cost.
you know, there might, the way I always looked at it is, yeah, we might not have that many, you know, disabled people, but if we want families, you want to be able to have someone pushing a stroller with 2 kids have an easy way to get downstairs. And so it's, that was always a big piece of the job for me.
Thank you so much.
So we are saying goodbye, farewell, not to the greater church, but to the being on the vestry, 4 vestry members, myself, Tim Ashmore, Fran Stockwell, and Mary Jane Trombley. And that leaves us with 4 openings. I don't know if any of you were here later on this. Fran. Stand up, Fran.
You're here.
You're here.
Oh, wait. That leaves us with 4 vacancies. We had 4 people who graciously stepped up to serve as leaders of the church and serve on the vestry for the next 3 years. And they are with us. I'd like them to stand up.
Next slide.
And the next slide, please. We have Allison Hall, Mark Johnson, Karen Lund, and Betsy she's a little under the weather, so we weren't able to have Betsy. So I would like to ask for someone to make a motion to approve the slate of.
I make the motion.
Thank you, and a second? Fourth, fifth. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we have 4 new members on your vestry. Reverend Susan or Reverend G, would you like to give a closing prayer for our meeting today?
All right, let us pray. Almighty God, we feel the wind. We don't know where it goes, nor where it comes from, but we trust you. We trust that you will be with us as we embark on this journey for the year 2023, and you will lead us to serve your people, to build your kingdom on earth, and to be your hands and feet and eyes in this world that you so desperately love. Bless us as a congregation, bless us as individuals, and bless the work we are doing to the glory of your holy name. Amen.
Can the vestry stay for 3 minutes? New vestry, existing vestry, 3 minutes.
Put in the word.
Nice to see you.